Welcome to Daryl's Beekeeping videos, where I teach beekeepers of all skill levels about the art and science of beekeeping. I'm a master beekeeper, and my articles have been published many times in magazines such as American Bee Journal, Bee Culture, Beekeeping Your First 3 Years, and the Bee Buzz. Now let's get on with the lesson. Hello. In a previous video, I demonstrated how to make a bucket feeder by drilling a series of holes, probably about 100 holes in a food grade bucket lid, and by using a Dremel tool and a 1/32 inch drill bit. Again, be sure to look at the other video to see how to make these. They're super simple to make, takes less than about 10 minutes to make. That's all it is I use a food grade bucket. I always use food grade buckets so that I'm not introducing any chemicals into my hive other than what's absolutely necessary. So again, I get food grade buckets either in a 5-gallon bucket or a 2.5-gallon bucket. I've already made up a 5-gallon bucket earlier. Today I'm going to be using a 1-to-1 sugar syrup mix, which is done by weight. So it's 1 gallon of water equals 8 pounds. So that is 2 bags. For the 5-gallon bucket that I made earlier, I simply used 2 gallons of water with 4 4-pound bags of granulated sugar to make that mix. And now I'm going to make a 2.5-gallon syrup to show you how that process is made. So it's all I'm using is hot tap water, some Honeybee Healthy to be a syrup extender. It also adds essential oils that the bees need for nutrition. It also acts as an attractant to help the honeybees find it. And then what I do when I get it is a good way to save money is I initially buy these 16-ounce bottles of Honeybee Healthy, and I'll buy 2 to 3 bottles of these, and then I'll reuse them. So you're going to find that in the long run, if you have more than a few hives, you can buy Honeybee Healthy in the gallon size container and then use these 16-ounce bottles. When they become empty, you simply put a funnel on them and then pour from the gallon size container into these 16-ounce containers, and it'll save you a lot of money over the long run. These have a shelf life of 2 to 3 years, so they've got a good amount of time shelf life. All right, so I've already laid out things I might need to do this process. Again, I have my bucket already. I have my lid with all my holes drilled in it. I need a long-handled spoon to help mix everything. I have a measuring container. In this case, it's a gallon. And what I like to do is I like to take a dark marker, permanent marker, and mark the graduations on it. So if I need to mix anything less than a full gallon, then I've got the graduated marks to mix it accordingly. I also have a purpose use teaspoon. It's 1 teaspoon. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 1 teaspoon of Honeybee Healthy per quart of syrup, and you can go as much as 2 teaspoons per quart if you want to increase the strength. I only use the 1 teaspoon per quart measurement, and it's not an exact science because natural nectar from natural floral sources ranges anywhere from 25 to 40% sugar to water mix, and it can be higher or lower. It can be as little as 5%, and it can be as high as 50-60% sugar to water. So when we mix it at 1-to-1, it's basically 50% mixed ratio. So the bees are more than happy with it. They will naturally prefer natural nectar as opposed to man-made syrup, but if that's all they've got available or if it's their best choice, they'll go with that. So today we're going to mix this up. So again, it's all I'm using is hot tap water, as hot as I can get it. I've already made it, run my tap water in advance. So I only have to fill up just a little bit in front of the camera just to show you the process. Once this fills up, then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the Honeybee Healthy. All right, so it's now filled up. So next thing I'm going to do is what I like to do is I like to measure out my Honeybee Healthy directly into the bottom of the bucket. That way when I pour my water in, it's already starting to get diluted. One word of caution though, Honeybee Healthy is a highly concentrated blend of essential oils, which means that if it splashes into your eyes, it can actually burn your eyes, and you should not drink this directly because, again, one, you shouldn't drink it at all, but again, if you accidentally ingest it in your mouth, make sure you rinse it out pretty well, again, because it is concentrated essential oils and it will burn you. So at no time will I get my eyes near this bucket so it doesn't splash up into my face. So I just take my lid off, and then I take my teaspoon right over top of it, and it's not exact science because remember you can go up to 2 teaspoons per quart. I just simply let it pour. That's 4, 5. I did a little extra, but that's okay. I'm used to doing the 5-gallon buckets where I go 8. Again, it's not that big a deal. And you notice I get a little bit of runoff to the side. That's not a big deal because, again, I'm gonna hold my eyes back. I'm gonna use my water. I'm just gonna run it over top of the teaspoon and over top of that Honeybee Healthy that ran outside my container here, and it just cleans it off, so I got a nice clean device. So now I have a nice clean teaspoon, and then I simply take my white granulated sugar. Never use sugar that contains molasses because molasses is very tough on the honeybees, so always use white granulated sugar. You can either use any name brand, it doesn't matter, bees don't care. So I usually get mine from like Food Lines in my area. It's the cheapest. It's this Cha-Ching brand. It's the cheapest of the bunch. So again, it comes in this convenient 4-pound bags. So again, I mix up my syrup first, and I may add 1 bag to it, or I may simply stir up the Honeybee Healthy first. In this case, because I poured water in, it is already starting to pre-mix. So again, I'm being careful though to keep my eyes back so that I am not splashing. All right, remember I'm mixing this by weight, so it's 1 gallon of water to, which is 8 pounds, to 8 pounds of sugar. So I've mixed my first bag of sugar, white granulated sugar, in with the mix, and you'll see that 1 gallon of water and 2 4-pound bags of white granulated sugar almost fill this white bucket. So it does a nice job. It comes within about 2 inches, 2.5 inches from the top of the bucket. So again, I just give it a good stir till I get most of the granulated sugar dissolved. It's not going to fully dissolve, that's okay. The bees will be able to still get to it. And then once I see that the bucket is empty, I then simply take it and take the lid off, and then let the honeybees clean up any dry messes. Again, they'll get it nice and cleaned off. So now that I've got my Honeybee Healthy and my syrup mixed in, I'm simply going to take my lid and then press until you hear it pop. And I just work my way around, all around this lid until it's in place. And now it's nice and tight. It's not going to go anywhere. If you ever had to remove the lid, Dayton sells this, Dayton Bee Supply sells this nice lid removal, and so all you do is it's got a couple of little lips on it, and you'll notice this lid has lips on it as well. So you just simply put it over the edge of the lip, and you've got to be careful not to get it in too deep so that you don't catch the lip of the bucket itself, because if you do that, you can actually rip that lip off, and then it basically breaks your bucket and it becomes worthless. So just be careful as you go it. And so all I'm going to do until I get the seal broken all the way around it, I'm just going to lightly lift up on it. Do not try to lift up entirely on one side until you've gotten it completely broken all the way around. Again, because you can crack that plastic on the bucket, and then you've got a worthless bucket except for using it for in a Miller hive top feeder or any other type feeder where you're just emptying the bucket into it. So again, so all I'd do is I'd simply pull up like this. Again, just being very careful to catch this lid up. See how I'm just lightly pulling up on the edge, and you'll see it popping up a little bit. And you just simply go all the way around. And then once you see it go around, you'll start seeing it freeze up a lot more easy. Again, don't be tempted to rip it up all at once, because even though it's loosening up, because if you do, you can run the risk of breaking it off. So again, I'm just applying a little pressure and going around now. So again, just kind of going around, lifting around. Again, this is just showing you, when you get ready to take the bucket off, the lid off, that's how you do it. And once I get around there, you see how I'm just kind of working up now, and it pops right off. It's just that easy to do. And then again, because I just got syrup in it, I'm gonna give it one final stir. Because again, if you try to mix all your sugar in at once, you'll get one massive clump of sugar in it. It's hard to break up. So you notice my technique is I'll add one bag at a time and then mix it. So again, now I'm putting the lid back on, then just putting pressure down on it. And now it's all seated. Excuse me for sweating. It's a little hot in my house today. It's close to 78 outside and it's 82 in my house. And that's all there is to mixing Honeybee Healthy and making your own syrup. Now in the winter months, we're going to change the mixture rate to 2 to 1. So for every gallon of water, which is 8 pounds of water, I'm going to mix 16 pounds of sugar with it for a 2 to 1 ratio. And what that does, and again, it's always by weight, and it really doesn't matter because remember what I told you earlier about nectar being anywhere from 25 to 40% sugar to water in nature. So it's not that exact of a science, don't sweat it. But the reason we like 2 to 1 in the cold months is so that the bees don't have to dehydrate it as much as they're converting it to honey. And you'll notice once we get out to my apiary at some point, I'll have in my separate videos, if you've ever watched some of those other videos, you'll see that I run deep hive bodies for the brood chambers and also any honey that they can keep. And if I have a honey super, which is a medium size, that the honey that's in the medium supers, medium sized boxes, are for human consumption. And so anytime I'm feeding a supplemental feed, I'm not putting a honey super on unless I need them to draw out the comb on foundation. In that case, I'll feed them sugar syrups until they draw out that comb, and once they get the comb drawn out on those honey frames, then I'll simply remove the artificial feed and let them forage if there's a nectar flow going on. So that's just my technique so that I don't mix syrup. Again, it's nothing wrong with it to be for consumption, but I've had a state inspector tell me that he can tell the difference that when somebody used Honeybee Healthy in their sugar syrup and then tried to pawn it off at the fair competition as honey because it has a really bitter taste. It's perfectly fine for the bees. It just has a nasty taste to it, supposedly. It's still honey. Most people, some beekeepers will debate that it's not actually honey, but it actually is because the bees still converting the sugar with their enzymes into honey. It just doesn't have the floral taste of any natural flavor, any natural flowers that are out there. But it's still honey because again they converted it with the sugar with the enzymes that they introduce. It is still honey, but again, don't sell it as, I wouldn't sell it as, you know, wildflower honey because it's not made from flowers. All right, that's it for this video, and I'll take you out in the apiary in a little bit and show you how it's set up on my community feeder. I could easily pour this into my any form of in-hive feeder, such as Miller feeder. I rarely use interest feeders, but you could also use the division board feeder. In this case, I've got it set up with this lid to be used in a community feeder, and I'll show you what that looks like next.